Folks, today's Monday, July 13th, 2026. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries blast Donald Trump for his failure to sound the bipartisan housing bill. He also has some tough words about the Supreme Court or the extreme court making decisions that he says it's about reintroducing Jim Crow. A federal judge rips Donald Trump and his lawyers regarding his settlement with the IRS. The judge is so cold that he's referring the lawyers to the state bar for action as well. Folks, also on today's show, Lindsay Graham, senator from Republican Senate from South Carolina, dies over the weekend. We'll talk about his legacy, which is really about embarrassing himself by kissing Donald Trump's ass, and his sister has been named his temporary replacement in the United States Senate. D.C. Council has sent letters to Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan and Governor Albert Bryan Jr. of the U.S. Virgin Islands, urging them to withdraw their National Guard personnel from the city. We'll talk with a council member who believes it's time for them to go. The Justice Department recently swore in more than 100 new lawyers and personnel. Pretty much they're lily white. And we'll talk about environmental justice in this country as well. Folks, lots to talk about. It's time to bring the funk. On Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the fine. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, a federal judge has avoided the settlement previously reached by the liar-in-chief, Donald the Con Trump, and his two oldest sons, which would have given them millions that they planned to use in part as a slush fund for January 6 rioters. Judge Kathleen Williams ruled the lawsuit was an attempt to legitimize the government's effort under Trump to, quote, confer immunity to people and entities affiliated with the president, and, quote, and to earmark billions of dollars from American taxpayers to address unclear grievances. The settlement would have freed the Trumps from years of past tax liability and would have stopped any future audits. Also would have created a so-called anti-weaponization fund for people who claim to have been abused by the legal system. But not only that, in this ruling, the judge also said you can't have somebody representing both sides. That's pretty much what happened here. Also in this ruling, which is even more decisive, the judge blasted the attorneys involved and is going to refer them to the state bar in Florida as well as Washington, D.C. Now, this is a huge, huge ruling because what you had here was Donald Trump essentially saying that because his tax returns had been leaked, oh, by the way, they were leaked during his first administration, that he was entitled to compensation. So the Department of Justice agrees. The problem is they're working at his behest. That's why this judge said, nah. And so the judge also just said, how dare these lawyers could make the decisions that they were making. And so it really was quite a ruling by this judge, especially the referring to the state bar. Listen to this here. The judge said, John Adams warned, facts are stubborn things, and whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of our passions, they cannot alter the state of facts and evidence. Thus, whatever may be the party's wishes, inclinations, or the dictates of their passion, they cannot alter the state of the facts or evade the rule of law. Contrary to plaintiffs' concern, the court did not have to, quote, sally forth to look for a wrong to right. Court needed only to look at the uncontroverted facts here. Donald Trump is president. President Trump controls the actions of the Secretary of the Treasury Department, Scott Bessent, IRS CEO Frank Bisignano, and all executive branch actors. President Trump, through executive order, also controls the litigation strategy and interpretation of the laws guiding the Department of Justice. For the 109 days that this case was pending, no attorney representing the United States filed a notice of appearance or any document indicating the government's position, interest, or awareness of this matter. Defendants' actions are consonant with the dictates of Executive Order 7. These facts lead to the inexorable conclusion that the, quote, settlement terms, the individuals who signed the settlement, as well as the putative beneficiaries of the settlement, demonstrate a shared unitary interest. And the unilateral revision and renunciation of the fund component of the settlement demonstrates the fact that all parties were aligned and ultimately undifferentiated. Dr. Amakongo, being a senior professor, a lecturer, School of International Service, author of a book, the book Lies About Black People. Also, Thelma Anderson, creator of the Public Opinion Court, author of Shut Up and Prosecute. Joining us from Dallas, Dr. Zachary Kurt, educator and content creator out of Atlanta. Glad to have all three of y'all here. And Zachary, that is one big-ass microphone. Seriously, that is a big ass. That's a big ass.
Loud and clear.
Yeah. They can hear your ass in Mars. That's a big ass microphone. All right, let's get.
You are the target this week.
I'm just saying, it's a big ass microphone. Like, damn. Okay, I'm the Congo. This judge just rips it. The judge is right. How in the hell can you have the individual being the plaintiff and the defendant controlling both legal strategies?
I guess you can do that when you're Trump, or at least you think you can, until this judge blocks it down. I mean, this guy walked around talking about, well, I don't really know how it's going to go, because I'm the one, I'm suing myself, and this has never been done before. And he thought it was cute, and he's going to keep pushing these limits as far as he can go. He'll hope that this gets to the Supreme Court and that they'll allow him to do whatever it is that he wants. But it's really important that these judges continue to stand up. And quite frankly, it's very frustrating that between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0, like more lawyers have not been disbarred or referred to be disbarred because they have lied for him on so many levels. Even some of his health officials as well, like Jackson as well. He's the fittest ever. He surrounds himself with liars. They lied to the American people. And unfortunately, too many of these courts, some have sided against him, but they have not held these lawyers accountable. And once you start doing things like this, messing with disbarment, messing with their money, messing with their legal profession and their ability to be able to continue to work after this administration is gone, that's maybe when some of these guys are going to buckle up. But this is a man who's throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing everything that's going to stick, hoping he'll get the right judge, an Eileen Cannon type down in Florida, just somebody who's going to help him continue his path towards undermining this democratic experiment. And fortunately, at least in this moment, this judge is not allowing it and is calling him out for his lies, something that you've been doing, Roland, since day one of the last administration. These judges, these other networks, so many people took over 10 years to just call this man a straight up liar. But this is what he's doing, and it needs to be called out.
Zachary, the judge writes, in the very first paragraph of the complaint, plaintiffs introduce their claims stating President Trump served as the 45th president of the United States and is the 47th president of the United States. They then go on to state that President Trump brings this suit in his personal capacity. After a review of the record and the parties' statements, the court declines to adopt or accept the credulous exercise of divorcing President Trump's current job title from an understanding of what happened here. But perhaps the most startling misstatement advanced by plaintiffs is their characterization of this case as ordinary. The parties here are not private actors to a mind-run dispute, recounting their proficiency in the art of the deal they negotiated. Lead plaintiffs and defendants are public servants, the pinnacle of the executive branch, sworn to uphold the law, faithfully perform the duties of their office, and protect the interests of the American public. The issue before the court is whether instead they ignored ethical norms, court rules, and legal authority to manipulate the judicial process. The issue is whether they did so to gild their efforts to gain unprecedented access to the public fisc and with the patina of legitimacy. There's nothing ordinary about this case. It is the very definition of sui generis. This is a 56-page ruling, and this judge just goes on and on and on in ripping these grifters.
And thank God for Judge Kathleen Wilson, someone who is willing to do the right thing and who is willing to be able to follow the rule of law, which is extremely clear. We are living in a time frame when 6 members of the Supreme Court routinely fail to do what this judge who serves under them chose to do. And that's the right thing. Follow what's written by law. And she's absolutely right. There's no level of ethics here. There is no level of morality in this current administration. Donald Trump's net worth, and I pulled it up, has increased by about $3.4 billion. And that's on the lower end of what this man has possibly made since taking office in 2025. And in addition to that, he wanted to take even more money from the American people, the American government. This is a man who is trying to remake the White House in his image, trying to remodel Washington in his image, flying around on a Qatari jet that he's calling Air Force One. This man there is no limit to what he will take from the American people, while the majority of Americans have seen a denigration in their quality of life under his leadership. Under his leadership, our economy is faltering. Our unemployment rates are going up. We're struggling under this man, yet he's constantly profiting. Thank God for this judge and her willingness to toe the line, follow the rule of law. And I can only hope and pray that more people will look to her as a model and do exactly what she did, the right thing.
Absolutely, grifter in chief. And what was insane about this so-called IRS settlement, Thelma, is that it said, there will not be any future audits. So basically, hey, Donald Jr. and Eric Trump and Ivanka, here's a green light to just cheat, and we will never, ever investigate you again.
Well, first of all, they're testing the waters. They've been testing the waters on the legal capacity since their first administration. Right now, what they're doing is they're no longer walking, they are sprinting, because they have been afforded that. That's the reason why when I said in 2024, going into 2025, there's going to be a reckoning in the legal profession. You're going to see who really is ethical and who really don't have a backbone and is only showing up for a check. These lawyers that have decided that everything that they've worked for, the oath that they've taken from both their state and on the federal level, that they said, we don't care about that as long as the commander-in-chief, who is only there per term, is going to give us permission to do something that we've always wanted to do, we're going to do it. But what people don't understand is we can hold these people accountable. Not only can we hold them accountable, we can file complaints with their bar, just like Pam Bundy had thousands of bar complaints waiting on her when she got fired. That's how you hold these grifters who are dependent on a unethical, just egregious, disgusting human being in a president while they're out here continuing to do this nonsense. But thank God that there are judges that are going to say, nope, y'all not going to come in my courtroom and play with the law. You do not come in here as a president and try to be on a personal side. What is wrong with you? Somebody has finally said, you don't get to play in our face. The people did not hire you for you to come in here and steal, kill, and destroy this system. And I'm going to put a stop to it. But hopefully, I don't have no faith in these DOJ prosecutors to do anything but do what they have been trained and what their commander-in-chief tells them to do.
Well, folks, we'll see. Certainly, I'm sure they're going to be appealing this and what the appeals court says. But thank God these federal judges are absolutely stopping the thug and grifter in chief. Got to go to break. We come back. Lots to talk about, including Lindsey Graham dying over the weekend. And what is his legacy? Let's just say kissing Donald Trump's butt. I will explain. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
My name is Lena Charles, and I'm from Opelousas, Louisiana. Yes, that is Zydeco capital of the world.
My name is Margaret Chappelle. I'm from Dallas, Texas, representing the Urban Trivia Game.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you watch.
Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Lots for us to break down here on the show, so we're going to keep doing that. One of the things that happened over the weekend was the shocking death of Lindsey Graham, Republican senator from South Carolina. He had returned from Ukraine, and he suffered an aortic dissection, and that's what led to his death at the age of 71. Now, there have been a variety of tributes from Republicans and Democrats regarding his passing. But when we talk about someone passing away, one of the things that I think about is what Max Robinson, the nation's first black network anchor, said in 1988. His body was frail, he was dying of AIDS. He was speaking at Howard University talking to students and alumni. He said something: never ever lose your integrity or your credibility, because in the end, that's all you've got. And so here we are talking about Lindsey Graham. And what do we remember? Him being an absolute flip-flopper and Trump ass kisser. Now, understand, he ran for president 2016. Yep, he was running against Trump and others. But 2015, he was on CNN. And this is what the so-called straight shooter said about Donald Trump.
I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you like this guy. I think what you like about him, he appears to be strong when the rest of us are weak. He's a very successful businessman, and he's going to make everything great. He's going to take all the problems of the world and put them in a box and make your life better. That's what he's selling. Here's what you're buying. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for. I've been in the Air Force for 33 years. I retired this June. He's the ISIL Man of the Year, by the way. He just got back from Iraq a week ago this Monday.
I know. We interviewed you live from there. You were with Senator John McCain, and you were going to Iraq to get a status report. What were they saying there about all of this?
The military leadership and the diplomatic corps. Now, we have young men and women in harm's way all over the world, particularly in the Mideast. They were concerned about this rhetoric because the enemy will use it against us. So what was a concern last week has to be DEFCON 4 this week. Because what Mr. Trump is doing, and I don't think he has a clue about anything, he's just trying to get his numbers up and get the biggest reaction he can. He's putting our soldiers and diplomats at risk. He's empowering the enemy. And this ban, if it's actually enacted, would take people who have been interpreters, who came to our side in Iraq and Afghanistan, who are under siege in their own countries, and basically becomes a death sentence for them.
That's Lindsey Graham. And he was highly critical of Donald Trump. Not only that, after the January 6th domestic terrorist attempt of Trump's people, again headed to the U.S. Capitol, Lindsey Graham stood on the floor of the United States Senate, railed against Trump, and he said this.
Trump and I, we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it being this way. Oh, my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see, all I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful. But when the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled 4-3 that they didn't violate the Constitution of Wisconsin, I agree with the 3, but I accept the 4. If Al Gore can accept 5-4, he's not president. I can accept Wisconsin 4-3. Pennsylvania, it went to the Second Circuit. So much for all the judges being in Trump's pocket. They said, no, you're wrong. I accept the Pennsylvania Second Circuit that Trump's lawsuit wasn't right. Georgia, they said the Secretary of State took the law in his own hands. He changed the election laws unlawfully. A federal judge said, no, I accept the federal judge even though I don't agree with it. Fraud. They said there's 66,000 people in Georgia under 18 voted. How many people believe that? I asked, give me 10. Hadn't had one. They said 8,000 felons in prison in Arizona voted. Give me 10. Hadn't gotten one. Does that say there's problems in every election? I don't buy this. Enough's enough.
I went call Fox News the weekend and said 40 minutes after Lindsey Graham made that, he called to apologize. And when he said, I'm done, that was a lie. Lindsey Graham was a hypocrite. Lindsey Graham was a liar. Lindsey Graham was all about access to power. Here is Lindsey Graham talking in 2025 to a group of Jewish Republicans, the Republican Jewish Coalition. Listen.
So I just want to say I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes. Trump is my favorite president. We've run out of bombs. We didn't run out of bombs in World War II.
Now, check this out. Peter Baker of the New York Times wrote this piece. Go to my iPad. How Lindsey Graham's journey from Trump critic to ally made him a power player. So he talked about he was still in the game. He sat here, and look at this here. He said, it had been a head-spinning transformation. When Mr. Trump first took the national stage, Mr. Graham denounced him as a kook who was unfit for office. Then after Mr. Trump won the presidency, Mr. Graham was at his side on the golf course and going on television to say how outrageous it was for anyone to call him some kind of a kook not fit to be president. Graham made no apologies. He said this was politics. I've just made a conscious decision. You know, I'm still in the game. There's no way to get around Trump. He's the most important figure in the Republican Party now. Not me, not John McCain, not George W. Bush, Donald Trump. Let's play the hand we're dealt. In the same article, Peter Baker says that even John McCain, who was very close to Lindsey Graham, was insulted by saying, why do you have to play golf with him so much? That was relayed to Peter Baker by someone else. Graham actually confirmed the comment. And so the article lays out, again, how he got close to Trump, how he played golf with him, how he was sort of one go-between between him and other Republicans. But see, this is what happens when you have no spine. This is what happens when you have no morals, no values, no integrity, no credibility, no decency, no honor. Lindsey Graham was the same as Donald Trump, craving for power and attention. And so his word cannot be trusted. It's as simple as that. Remember the George Floyd Act? That's right. Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott sat before those families. the George Floyd family, and said they were going to get the votes to pass the George Floyd bill. That never happened. Graham or Tim Scott. And so, what is the legacy? How will Lindsey Graham be remembered? Now, Senator John McCain, we may have differences on policy, but when it came to time to cast the vote for the Affordable Care Act, we all remember his famous thumbs down. He stood firm even when his own party disagreed. That's not how we remember Lindsey Graham. He'll be remembered as a slithering snake, someone who would slide in, slide out, somebody who would just do whatever he could do in order to maintain relevance. As Max Robinson said about your credibility, he said, never ever lose your integrity or your credibility, because in the end, that's all you've got. In the end, Lindsey Graham had none because he served it up to Donald Trump. Zachary, your thoughts?
May he rest where he is resting. May he rest where he is resting. Lindsey Graham was a weak and small leader who continuously looked for stronger people to hide behind, like Senator John McCain, like Donald Trump. And at no point did he ever do what was the right thing for the people of South Carolina. The people of South Carolina continuously searched, and both he and Tim Scott, Senator Scott, for leaders who were in the middle, more moderate, more centrist-leaning to represent them, and he never did. He always ran to the far right, hiding behind the far right, and never doing what was right and in the interest of the people. And so I look back to, Roland, what you said at the very beginning of this conversation, and that this man could have gone down in history as someone of principle, of someone of having done what was right, but he won't. I have never seen so many people heckle the loss of an American leader as I have seen them heckle Lindsey Graham. And they say that death comes in threes, and it's very well that this is a pretense of what may yet be to come, and the jolly good time we will have online when someone else transitions to hell.
Congo?
You know, my biggest problem, I think about Malcolm a lot in one of his speeches where he just says, you know, just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. And this revisionist history is a serious problem. If people don't want to speak ill of the dead, I completely understand that. But it's not speaking ill of the dead to tell the truth. And you told the truth, Roland. The fact of the matter is that he's somebody who wanted proximity to power. It didn't matter. You don't go from John McCain to, you know, being Donald Trump's boy. Like, you just don't do that unless that's what your goal is. And we also have to be clear. On many of his policies, he was an enemy to Black and brown people. And when you look at the LGBTQ community as well, regardless of what rumors people had about, you know, his own lifestyle, doesn't matter. He was an enemy to that community as well. He's going in front of that organization that you mentioned there, and he's talking about, well, killing all of the right people, was a complete warmonger as it relates to how he viewed other parts of the world where he was a hawk on. And so it's not disparaging him in any way, shape, or form to talk about his record and to talk about what he did. And I feel like there are a lot of people out there who are mad at many of the Democrats who, not the ones who are just, you know, speaking not ill of him, but are going extra, you know, to call him a hero and all of these other types of things. And it's just kind of showing people that some of these Democrats are not really in it to tell the truth and to really fight the good fight. And they're getting a lot of criticism as well. As it relates to Lindsey Graham, many people in South Carolina said that they never felt like he represented them for real, for not like one day. He was somebody who wanted that proximity to power, and he got it. And I feel like the way that the stories are being told about him now, we just need to paint an accurate picture. Whether you loved him or hate him, this is what he did. No one's going to sit here and say that any of us cared about proximity to power. We changed our values up depending on who was in office, and we did everything possible to get close to that. Just tell the truth. That's all we're asking.
This is what Peter Baker writes. With those outside Mr. Trump's team, Mr. Graham projected a wink and nod, I'm in on the joke demeanor. When my wife and I ran into him on the street in Washington one night during Mr. Trump's first term, coming out of a dinner at the CNBC in Palm restaurant, he stopped to boast about just getting off the phone with Mr. Trump, even as he laughed about the president's foibles. He's a lying MFer, Mr. Graham allowed with a shrug, but also, quote, a lot of fun to hang out with. Mr. Trump, he said, was so dominant within the party that he could do almost anything with impunity. He could kill 50 people on our side, and it wouldn't matter, Mr. Graham observed. So he didn't mind, Thelma, him being a lying MFer.
And that's why his family shouldn't mind how individuals are speaking their truth in the reality that he caused for so many people in this country. There's a saying that, you know, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. There is nothing nice to say about this spineless, racist, just inhumane individual. For you to side with an individual who has created such a rhetoric in this country, that only shows us that was your propensity. You just wanted somebody to come and remove that shell of a person that you have had to subscribe to in order to think that you are going into the base that is going to accept you. No, you wanted this identity all along. You just needed Trump to come in and release it so that you can be free in your hate, in your racism, in your spineless rhetoric. So when we are looking at how they have celebrated the deaths of individuals who are heroes, nobody is celebrating the death of someone that has created so much damage in this country that is going to take decades to undo. So seeing these Democrats go and kiss the ring don't make it no better, because now we're able to see your slip. We're able to see what you're doing behind closed doors when you are not holding space for the people that put you in that position. And that's exactly what Graham was. And the one thing that they would never be able to accept is how John McCain was celebrated when he passed away. How dare he gets support and love from both sides? Well, did you check his record? Did you check how he was as a real human being and as a hero? Y'all would never touch an inch of that man's credibility because y'all have none, and Lindsey Graham had none, and should not be celebrated for the damage and the pain that he's caused along the way.
Absolutely. All right, folks, let's talk about Washington, D.C. Well, the D.C. Council, they've sent letters to two governors, one in Michigan, one in the U.S. Virgin Islands, asking them to withdraw their National Guard troops from the nation's capital. The Michigan governor is Gretchen Whitmer, and of course, in the Virgin Islands, you have their governor as well. So the letter is sent July 9th to Gretchen Whitmer, thanking the Michigan National Guard for helping protect residents and visitors during the holiday events. But the council says the mission is over. Okay. Now, letter also was sent to Albert Bryan Jr. of the U.S. Virgin Islands. Joining us right now is the D.C. Councilmember at Large, Robert White Jr. Glad to have you here. So how many different National Guard members, in terms of how many states are they from in the city, to your knowledge?
I've lost count at this point, Roland, but what we saw was 5 or 6 Democratic governors sent Guard troops here. This is after, Trump has brought in Guard troops from Republican states for a year now. But for America 250, several Democrats say, look, out of respect for the country, we'll send Guard troops for America 250. But then we look and we see them out in neighborhoods doing law enforcement, not crowd control. And so now that America 250, the events are over, we said, look, it's time for folks to go back to their families and their jobs. Mission complete.
Have y'all talked to Governor Whitmer or Governor Bryan?
We're reaching out now, and look, I've been happy to see some of the remarks from Governor Whitmer in particular, saying, look, I'm concerned about mission creep and our Guard troops being used for something that was not intended. And so I think she's lined herself up for removing them, but it is time. In D.C., we've seen significant abuses. You're showing one of the videos now. This is somebody on their property, and, different than the National Guard, but we've seen ICE agents within 1 week kill 2 people in 2 different states. And, this is not law enforcement. This is not about public safety. This is about politics and political shows. And we don't want to be a pawn in that game.
This is, I mean, obviously, Trump wants everyone doing his bidding. And to your point, these are two, frankly, two Democratic strongholds. And when it comes to Michigan, Democrats control the governor's mansion, the House, and the Senate as well.
Yeah, they do, and we want to be conscious. The letter that we sent to the governor and to the governor of the Virgin Islands says, look, DC residents are the only Americans that pay all federal taxes, have fought and died in every single war, follow every American law, but don't have the same rights as other states. Treat us the way that you would want the residents of your state treated. But also, happen to be after this.
We lost the feed there to Councilmember White, so let's do this here. Let's go to a break, and we'll try to get him back after this break. We'll be right back. Rolling Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget to support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to contribute, do so. Please do so by using this QR code for Cash App. Also for credit cards. If you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com. Checks and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Send to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
Welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
What's up, y'all? This is Wendell Haskins, a.k.a. Win Hogan at the Original T Golf Classic. And you know I watch Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, we got Councilmember White back. Lost him there. Go ahead and finish the comment you're making, sir. All right, looks like we've lost him again. Not sure what's going on there. And so we'll sort through that to figure it out. Go to my panel here. Bottom line here, Thelma, these governors should absolutely recall their troops and should not be doing the bidding of Donald Trump.
Absolutely, especially when they are footing the bill for what is being required. When you are telling troops to go somewhere and put their lives and risk their livelihoods and in their families' security on a president that is refusing to provide resources and help, but for the fact that he's the president, he can make these demands. Well, they are also overseers of what these guards are being inflicted to do. So their job is to protect them. Just like the commander-in-chief job is to protect not only the troops, but the residents of this country and the citizens of this country, and to ignore the request that you are able to do, but you want to sit up here and do everything else but provide for the National Guard is insane to me. And it only shows that he lacks everything a leader lacks. But I appreciate them continuing to put pressure on him and don't stop, because that's the only way they're going to get just an ounce of what they should be receiving in return.
Zachary?
That these governors have to absolutely do the right thing. I literally just looked this up, people, really quickly, and it's going to cost it costs right now between $311 and $607 per person per day for these members of the National Guards to be away from their families, away from their jobs, away from their lives to patrol Washington, D.C. at the behest of the president. That's how much it's costing. And it's about $1 million total dollars per day. That's how much money that we are losing. These states, these funds could do so much good for the people if they were being used in that way. I need Gretchen Whitmer and people like this who are possibly being mentioned for a future beyond their state office to follow the example of leaders like Governor Wes Moore. We have, and to be fair, Governor Gavin Newsom. We need people to have a backbone, to stand up and do what is in the interest of their constituents instead of doing the bidding of this president. And until we see that, we have to make these people, it's disqualifying. If they don't stand up, if they don't have a backbone, there's no way they can continue to serve the people of this country beyond their state.
You got Councilmember White back. Councilmember White, you were making a comment. I want you to finish that. Okay. All right. Again, let's go. Let's close this out with a second with Omekongo. Omekongo, go ahead.
Look, I'm a homeowner in D.C., I teach in D.C., and I'm a business owner in D.C. And these National Guard members, they're blight on the city. Everywhere you go, they're just there. You saw the trucks outside, the tanks outside of the Union Station, basically looking like a museum demonstration right on the grass. People look at them almost as a tourist attraction for people who aren't from here. But for people who are here, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. And I noticed that I didn't see any of them out there when those white nationalists were out there like 400 deep, marching down the streets or hopping on these trains, during, Trump's 250 celebration of himself that he tried to tie into America's independence. It's really frustrating, and they do have to go. And I give kudos to White and others who are putting pressure on these governors to withdraw their troops, because they're doing absolutely nothing. And like you said earlier, they are losing time with their own families on the personal side. But for us who are walking around in the city, they are completely unnecessary.
That is issue with council member, but White, we appreciate him joining us. Let's go to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281. This episode is sponsored by Kalshi, the largest prediction market in the United States. Here's what makes Kalshi different. You're not playing against a house. Kalshi is peer-to-peer trading. You buy a yes or a no contract on whether something will happen, and you're trading directly against other users. Think of it like buying or selling a stock. The line isn't set by some algorithm working against you. It moves based on where the money goes. Public opinion sets the price. Right now, when it comes to the World Cup, France is trading at 41%, meaning a $100 trade pays out $242.28 with the correct prediction. And as that probability shifts, you can buy in or out of your position at any time to lock in a profit or cut a loss. Kalshi is CFTC approved, that is federally regulated, which is why it's available all across the country, including California and Texas. Download the Kalshi app and use the code SOCCER10 to get $10 when you trade $10. You can also sign up at kalshi.com/R/soccer10, which auto applies as the code at checkout. KALSHI Kalshi. Trade what's next.
Medicine and science under attack. I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
It's your boy Earthquake, giving Roland Martin something to do, because he don't know what to do. He from Texas. Ain't his fault.
The white man who opened fire on a black Georgia family reunion is back in police custody. He may face more charges. Last month, Jeffrey Kinzer was charged with 1 count of aggravated assault after he shouted racial slurs while driving past the black family's home, then returned wearing body armor and began firing at the crowd. Kinzer's defense team requested a bond modification to allow him to return home. The state opposed that request and filed a motion for Kinzer to remain in jail until an official bond hearing. Judge Jim Thurman ruled in favor of the state and adjusted Kinzer's original bond condition. Now he must remain at least half a mile away from the victim's home. During the hearing, Lee County District Attorney Louis Lamb requested adding in about 29 additional counts of aggravated assault and 30 counts of possession of a firearm, while Judge Thurman discussed a potential $1 million bond. The official bond hearing is set for tomorrow. One of the friends who says he was with Nolan Wells during a 4th of July trip to Mississippi's Horn Island before the teen was found dead is now speaking out about some of what he saw. In an interview that aired Monday, July 13th on Good Morning America, Trayston Shepard told ABC News that he and other young folks who were on the trip have been devastated by Wells' death while also facing intense public scrutiny in the days since.
I just know I've lost my best friend. We did no wrong here, and we don't understand how we're getting so much hate behind it. We all cared and loved Nolan, and nobody wanted to see Nolan die. Nobody wanted to see his life be taken so short. I want everybody just to relax and let everybody mourn the loss of Nolan, and let us remember him as in the sweet guy. I think everybody needs to let the investigation continue and let the facts be shown.
Trayston also said he was the one in the video of the alleged confrontation that day, not Nolan. So much has been made of all of this, and I will say he's right here in terms of an investigation must be allowed to continue. But here we are, 9 days after he was last seen. His body was 7 days after his body was recovered. Then, of course, a photo was put out showing that he was possibly at a pool party later that night. I mean, so much conflicting information here, Thelma.
Absolutely. And what irritates me about this, friend, is where were you last week when we were trying to figure out what was going on in that video? You were mute. So for you to come to say a week later that we need to relax, no, we don't need to relax, because we need to know what happened to Nolan. And if none of his friends are going to step up and be man enough to tell us what happened to Nolan, we are going to continue to apply enough pressure to make y'all do what y'all should have done. Where were you? Did you go and tell his attorneys, his family attorneys, about this mysterious voice? Did you tell his attorneys about anything that you saw? Because we are hearing from you on Good Morning America, on a big platform. We don't see an affidavit that you've signed, that you swore to these statements. We're just getting statements from individuals that now want to come to the front when we, the public, have been seeking answers for the family. So I don't care what he said. None of what he said to me is credible. What we are continuing to do is make sure this investigation is credible, but his statements coming out a week later, it sounds very much rehearsed. They sound bought. They sound like somebody got to him, because ain't no way a real friend of Nolan is going to come out and approach this conversation the way that he did without first seeking and giving the information to the family and his family's attorney.
Zachary?
You know, Roland, this is one of the stories that I'm following very closely on my social media accounts, the Zactivist. And for those watching, you can follow on TikTok and Instagram. And I'm doing a lot of research around debunking what isn't true. And so we now know that that photo that you saw of the pool party was probably taken around June 27th and was an old photo that then resurfaced. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And it's so important, and I want to share to everybody out there, that we only share factual information and that we don't muddy and confuse the work of people who are trying to really get to the bottom of it. But at the same time, it's so important for us to not stop saying this young man's name. Nolan Xavier Wills, Nolan Xavier Wills, Nolan Xavier Wills, because by us keeping this at the forefront, we are pushing for justice. Mississippi, my native land, where my family still lives, is a state ripe with racial injustice and continuous police cover-ups. We cannot trust Sheriff Ledbetter in Jackson County, Mississippi, any more than we can trust the people that covered up the murder of Emmett Till, the people that we saw in Mississippi Burning in Neshoba County, Mississippi. We cannot trust these people to ever give justice for the Black lives that live in that live in that state and that have made that state. That is why we're being vocal. That is why we're fighting hard. That is why we are committed to ensuring justice for Nolan Xavier Wills. And it is, to me, disappointing that this young man who looked brown, now he may not know he brown, but he certainly didn't look white to me. They got the darkest of the group to come out on public television and defend the actions of the friend group. And these young people may very well be innocent of any and all crimes, but we don't know that to be true until the facts of the case bear out. I personally am taking the lead from Attorney Ben Crump and the family. I'm looking at what they put out. I'm looking at how they're feeding us information, because this man is a master of getting justice for people in this country that have been wronged civilly by systems of government. So, and I urge all of us to do the same thing, but I do ask that everyone out there continue to push, continue to share credible information, and continue to see this through to true justice is garnered for this family.
Congo.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Roland, for the incredible interview that you did with the family last week. And, going off of Dr. Kirk's point, it's really important that we pay attention to trusted sources. Dr. Kirk mentioned his platform also, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network, because there's so much misinformation and disinformation out there that if we really want to uplift Nolan, we have to make sure that we're telling factual stories. And so I appreciate that everything that you've done as it relates to that. Furthermore, it's really important that as we continue to uplift him, We also have to pay real attention to whenever this autopsy is going to be released. Shout out to Colin Kaepernick. His name's been in the news a lot this weekend for reasons that shouldn't have been in the news relating to Jay-Z, but he was busy doing the work and paying for part of this autopsy. And when that comes out, so much more is going to be explained. So I'm not paying attention to any of these friends, any of these other family, any of these friends, any of these judges, parents, family members of those friends who are coming out. I'm not paying them any attention because a real solid case is being built. There's nobody better in the business to do that than Benjamin Crump. And as it was said, we need to continue to uplift him. I'm seeing videos of Nolan on my feed every day, and he just, so alive, so energetic, so happy. And it was just taken for reasons we don't know yet, but those reasons are going to come out if we continue to keep our finger on the button. And I know that we're going to do it here, and everybody needs to know that we're going to keep doing that here.
Oh, absolutely. I had somebody comment on one of my posts on Instagram. It was like, where's your Nolan Wells coverage? I'm like, yo ass, you've been in a coma. I'm like, and I said, and people are like, oh, you ought to be nice about it. I'm like, no. I said, don't you ever come on my page saying some nonsense like that without checking your damn facts. They got real quiet. All right, folks, let's talk about the issue of environmental justice. On July 8th, the Department of Justice swore in 100 new attorneys and staff members in the Civil Rights Division. It pretty much looked like a Klan meeting. These individuals are responsible for enforcing some of the nation's most important anti-discrimination laws. That's your new civil rights lawyers? Okay. Gotcha. With this team in place, what does that mean for the future of civil rights in this country? Here's what we know. Under Harmeet Dillon, this Department of Justice does not actually give a damn about civil rights. What they care about are white people. What they care about are white rights. They are attacking civil rights if it impacts black people and other people of color. In fact, they have sued states when it comes to voting, when it comes to the EEOC, you name it. And so this, and also, do y'all understand that Department of Justice was literally created to protect black people from racists in the South? Yep. So we look at the history of the Department of Justice and the Civil Rights Division and the work it did, obviously with Bobby Kennedy in the 1960s, Christian Clark later under President Joe Biden. We're talking about an department that really impacts everything in this country when it comes to our civil rights. But what Donald Trump cares about are white people. What Donald Trump cares about are defending them. In fact, this is so interesting. I was, give me a second. I was reading Howard Bryant's book, Kings and Pawns. And, whenever you hear these Simple Simon Negroes who love themselves, some Republicans, you notice they never, ever bring these things up. So Howard was talking about Jackie Robinson and his dissatisfaction with the Republican Party. And if anybody actually read his book, I Never Had It Made, you will then understand exactly what he was talking about. But he also talked about Jackie Robinson writing a piece in a newspaper. Because Jackie Robinson, which I didn't even realize, he was the first black sports columnist in the country when he started writing a column for a New York newspaper. And so it talked about his frustration with the Republican Party, their refusal to care about issues that impacted African Americans. He often was critical of Richard Nixon, Dwight Eisenhower. He campaigned against Barry Goldwater as well. But it was interesting in this one where he questioned, is the Republican Party the party of white men? Show the photo again. That's an excellent question that he posed, I believe was 1969. And what we have to recognize is, yeah, We talk about civil rights in this country. That's what these folks are. They laid it out in Project 2025, Zachary. We kept trying to explain to people that this Department of Justice, this Civil Rights Division, Donald Trump did not give a damn about black people. They were going to target black people. There is a war on black people. It is the defunding of black America, and this is a reality.
This administration wants to continuously see black and brown people die. We know what happened today in Maine. We know what happened last week in Texas. And now we look at what's happening in the continuous assaults in Cancer Alley of Black lives. That's Representative, I think, Troy Carter's district in Louisiana, where you have the insanely insubordinate amount of cancer-causing towers and chemical plants and processing plants, so that the Republicans who lead that state are going to make money and make revenue, while the black residents of that state who live along Cancer Alley suffer lifelong consequences and generational harm and health damages. And we had small steps by our government under the Joe Biden administration to rectify the past wrongs, to help build these communities back up, to help take away the environmental pollutants, only to see Trump come in and undo all of that work, undo all of that progress to put us right back to where we are. It is devastating, it's disappointing, and there's no semblance of environmental justice that's even coming anytime soon. Because again, what this man is doing in the 4 years that he's going to serve in office will take decades to undo. Decades, and only then if we have leaders in power who care enough to undo the damage, which I can't say we will.
They don't care, Ome Congo, and they never will, and they've made that perfectly clear.
Oh, absolutely. And I would say, even in addition to them not caring, they're dropping all of the cases that we talked about, Cancer Alley and other things, but they're also increasing the pollution that's happening in our communities. When you look at what's happening with these data centers, when you look at all of the regulations that Trump is working on with the auto industry to get rid of some of the environmental emissions as it relates to that as well, at every single step, what did he talk about? We're going to bring back coal. I mean, at every single step, they're enacting policies that are making our communities more unhealthy. And many people who are in these white rural areas, these white impoverished areas, these trailer park areas, they should be paying attention to this as well, because they were already struggling as it is. And it's going to get worse as their rural hospitals close, as they get less and less access. So as much as there's a real attack on black and brown people in this country, and is being paid for by our taxpayer dollars to get lawyers like that, who they just hired, who they're bringing in. I remember I saw a picture of the White House, the interns for the summer, and it was the same picture, but now these were just college students. These were just teenagers. So at every level, he's making it wider and wider and wider, and they're going to continue to get rid of policies that benefited our communities in any way, shape, or form. Like Dr. Kirk said, the little policies that we had, and they're going to make it worse, because this is a man who's beholden to coal, to oil, to these data centers, to big tech, and they're going to do everything possible to raise this country and burn it down to the ground, as relates to not leaving any opportunities for people who don't have means to be able to survive in this society.
Thelma.
Agree with the both of you. One thing that I've had to tell individuals who've asked me, what can we do? Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait this out, because we will not get anything done up under this administration. They've already shown, as soon as this administration took office, those departments went to smithereens. I was even told by an individual that worked there that looked like us before they were released and removed that the department was being dismantled as we knew it. So when people are asking, like, what do we do? Unfortunately, we have to wait this out, and we have to wait this out and vote like our lives depend on us, because what is going to happen in this next election cycle is going to be dependent on us getting out and doing the work as the voters to remove these bad apples. So when a new administration take over, they can release the bad apples that are in there right now. Ain't none of them in there look like they ethical. None of them look like they are the holders of equal protection for all. They look like they were hired to do a job, and their job is to be the handlers and act like handlers. So we cannot trust them as we know it right now, but that's why you're going to have to vote.
I was referencing September 15th, 1963. when Jackie Robinson wrote a piece for the Saturday Evening Post that was titled "The GOP for White Men Only." When you think about the issue of civil rights, when you think about environmental justice, all of these issues, they do not care. As Omekongo and Zachary stated, we covered this and we talked to the folks there. There was a lawsuit in Cancer Alley, disproportionately impacting black people. Joe Biden, his Civil Rights Division, they were behind it. Trump got in, said, no, we're getting out. They called it DEI. What you've seen under Democratic presidents, fights against polluting industries, landfills, highways disproportionately situated in communities of color, low-income areas. This administration says, oh, that's a bunch of crap. Systemic racism, it's a joke. You're discussing highways? That's a waste of time. Chandra Taylor Sawyer is a senior attorney in environmental justice. First of all, she's a senior attorney and environmental justice initiative leader at the Southern Environmental Law Center, joining us from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Glad to have you here. What we have seen from day one from these folks, they have gutted all of the efforts of the EPA. We were there in North Carolina for the anniversary where environmental justice was coined in North Carolina. We were there covering that event. This administration and the Republican Party acts as if none of that stuff, they act like it is all fiction. And none of what was discussed and none of what that has happened over the last 50 years is real.
Roland, should I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, I mean, absolutely. That's what we have come to see with this administration. So as you said, I'm a senior attorney at Southern Environmental Law Center. I lead our environmental justice initiative, and our work is really focused on making sure that Black communities, poor communities, vulnerable communities are not continuing to bear the disproportionate burden of environmental harm and are in a place that they are able to be, that we're able to be more resilient when there are more climate crisis driven weather events. So what we're seeing right now with this administration includes federal funding rollbacks. As you alluded to, the conflation of diversity, equity, and inclusion with environmental justice. This has resulted in the elimination of the Office of Environmental Justice, the elimination of the Environmental Protection Agency External Office of Civil Rights, cuts to hundreds of federal jobs that, these were people who were committed to making sure that these environmental threats were not disproportionately borne by people who have been underserved and overburdened for far too long. We saw the elimination of the Justice 40 initiative that was going to make sure that certain federal benefits, that 40% of them went to communities that were the most vulnerable and the most underserved. There's specific projects that I could get into that we are not going to be able to see come into fruition. These were projects that Congress mandated should actually receive federal funding. These organizations were vetted through months-long processes. I mean, in some cases, years-long processes. And this administration, in one fell swoop, without due consideration, cut federal funding that would actually have gone to improving the environment, improving the public health of communities that have not been served for far too long.
This is video of Michael Regan when we were there in North Carolina, where they were making that announcement, where they were sort of combining these various offices and really strengthening the efforts to attack environmental racism and confront environmental justice. And as you said, there's just been a flat-out gutting of all of those efforts. They've been wiped off of the map by Donald Trump and these maggots.
I mean, absolutely. I'm sorry, were you going to move to the video or should I continue to talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So some of the things that we've seen, Democracy Green in North Carolina, they were planning to do a campaign to actually make sure that people have safe water. This organization was, really made to be seem as if they didn't know what they were doing when they have been doing this work for quite, a really long time. Land Force was increasing transitional employment opportunities and providing training on reusing urban tree waste. Their funding was cut. Black Belt unincorporated wastewater program in Alabama. They had funding that was going to actually help make sure that there was adequate wastewater treatment in rural Alabama. Also, we saw cuts to that funding. So what we're doing as an organization is engaging on every level, standing beside our partner groups and our client groups to make sure that people's voices are heard, participating in the regulatory process, making sure that we're promoting the policies to still protect communities of color, because even when the administration tries to say that environmental justice does not exist, that does not mean that we're not still facing these same problems, that we're not still seeing Black communities being twice as likely to have hazardous waste facilities sited near them, that we're not still seeing higher rates of asthma in Black children. We still see those harms. So we're still working to make sure that that we're stopping the worst facilities, getting better regulations. So that does look like litigation in some instances, and I can get into some of that if that's where we'd like to go next. But there's definitely a lot of effort that is still happening on the ground to make sure that people have the best lives that they envision for themselves, despite all of the efforts of this administration to cut environmental justice infrastructure.
Question for the panel. Ome Congo, you first.
Thank you so much for all of your work and efforts and bringing information about what other organizations are doing. What can people like myself do? People who are interested in activism, interested in our communities, don't have the great depth of knowledge or history in terms of the work that you're doing in terms of environmental justice, and may not necessarily live in the communities that are directly being impacted. I know indirectly we're all suffering, but what can average folks do to help raise awareness and fight this?
Yeah, I think one great thing that we can all look into is supporting community groups, supporting groups that are doing environmental justice work all over the South. So Rachel's Network is an organization that has looked to women who are doing great work for environmental protection, and they're all over the nation. I mentioned their name because I think it's a good place to go to see some of the organizations that any of us can choose to support with our time, with our talent, with our money, making sure that those organizations are, actually supported. In many instances, just like federal funding has been cut, on to all these great organizations, EJ organizations are underfunded by philanthropy generally. So all of the support that we can provide to continue to help these, to help our neighbors, to help people who are advocating, I think that's something that we can all do. Petitioning decision makers as issues that are important to you show up on the local level, then making sure that the decision makers know what you'd like to see done. One example that I think is really helpful to think about is the proliferation of data centers. Data centers are, what we're seeing is in many cases, they're popping up in communities that, have been frontline to environmental harm, or in many instances, there's rural communities that, have been neglected in terms of services. What we're seeing now is a number of moratoria. The last time I looked nationwide, I think it's 155 moratoria. 32 of those moratoria that have been issued are in the state of North Carolina. So, as the South goes, so goes the nation. Look to making sure that, decision makers are getting all of the information about how these data centers operate, how much water they use, how much rates will increase, what is the land use going to be like when we get to the aftermath of these data centers. But people are speaking out, they're letting decision makers know what the problem is. One thing I also like for people to consider doing, we have a multimedia storytelling project, Plantations to Pollution, Black Communities, Legacy Pollution, and the Path Forward. There's a separate website. I would suggest that people go to it, and it really shows really the unbroken line between plantation and slavery in the United States and present day environmental racism. It really is showing how communities that were in the shadow of former plantations, they built themselves up nearby, post enslavement as freed people, built whole wonderful communities, but still ended up, because of a legacy of racism, being underserved, finding projects like highway projects that have split up communities, seeing multiple polluting facilities locate in these Black communities. they're seeing this harm. So I think going to that multimedia storytelling project, seeing what that unbroken line looks like, I think it actually helps, illuminate some of the issues that we see pop up over and over again all over the nation. It's a repeated story of how systemic racism results in this present day disproportionate burden of environmental harm on Black communities, underserved communities, poor communities.
Let's go to Thelma.
Good evening. Thank you for all that you do in what people would consider not the sexy area of the law, but is the most important area, because we're talking about environmental protections. One question that I have, because I don't want to escape the roles and responsibility of our local elected officials, because they are on the grounds. They get to see, they get to hear, they know what's coming into our counties, our cities, and sometimes they say nothing. So what do you recommend for the average resident within these counties that are very vocal in their within their local elections, as well as holding politicians accountable when we are not being told about what's going on in the environment, but we find out after the fact? Are there resources or standards that we can utilize in order to make sure that they are being transparent? Because we often find out things after the fact, so we don't know what's going on. But if we know how to approach these individuals, they can't run from being transparent for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I think foundational to the protection of all of our other rights, of course, is our right to vote. What we all have seen recently with the decision in Louisiana versus Calais, with the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, it is making it much more difficult for Black communities to actually make sure we're able to elect the representatives who are not going to hide the ball, who are not going to keep that information from us. Political power is essential to actually eliminating environmental racism, to promoting environmental justice. So doing all that we can to actually participate in the electoral process ourselves, to, be very rigorous in our, review of who is running for elected office, to put pressure on people who are currently in decision-making roles, whether that is on the local level with planning boards, if it's, the mayor of the town or the chair of the board of county commissioners, up into our state representatives and members of Congress. We want to put pressure on them to know that we want that information. We want to be included in the process. So let's make sure that we're engaging in every way to protect the rights to vote and to be able to get people in decision-making roles that actually care about our interests, care about our health, care about the environment that we live in, work in, play in, learn in.
Zachary?
Attorney Taylor Sawyer, thank you so much for all that you have done, and I really appreciate you being here. One of the best things about Roland Martin Unfiltered is that he brings such amazing guests to the audience, and he shares these really great, diverse perspectives. I want to be aspirational for that audience right now and talk and ask two questions about the future. When leader Hakeem Jeffries becomes the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and Democrats take control in a couple of months and start in January 2027, what's the first thing that you want to see them do to take a step forward in regards to environmental justice? And the second part of that question is that when we have a Democrat assume the presidency in 2029 after the 2028 election, what's the first thing you want to see that president do?
Well, I would say there have to be expectations of corporations. They are on the front line of where we see this environmental harm starting. And we don't have to wait. Like, it doesn't always have to be that the corporations wait for the law to actually tell them how much they can pollute. We can make sure that there are incentives in place to actually do right by communities, to do right by the people who are going to be, in proximity to polluting facilities. So, so in addition to making sure that corporations have incentives to actually do the right thing by communities, because they're going to be the place that, is actually often causing harm. We want to make sure that, we see some good legislation, that we actually get some legs under the Environmental Justice for All Act, that we actually see the restoration of the Voting Rights Act. So much of it has been whittled away, actually seeing something happen with that. And I think, too, restoration of great programs that we saw that were really breathing life into the environmental justice movement from the prior administration. So, like federal funding that was sitting there that didn't get to the places that it should be, we want to see that actually go to communities that need it, to improve the health of those communities, to improve the environment of those communities. I mean, hope isn't passive, it's persistence. The communities that we work with show us that progress happens when people are heard and supported. So people speaking out to make sure, that the next Congress, that the next executive knows that we want this, is extraordinarily important. So every time communities stand up to a polluter, they're rewriting what's possible. And I think really that's what can keep us going while we are, waiting to see, while we're waiting to get to that next place where the leadership changes and we can expect better things for all of us.
And Chandra, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good night.
Folks, today, House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries spoke, and he laid into Donald Trump over his refusal to sign a bipartisan housing bill that was driven by Congresswoman Maxine Waters in the House. He also had something to say about the extreme court and their racist attacks, racist decisions when it comes to voting. Just check it out.
Good afternoon, everyone. Donald Trump promised the American people that Republicans would lower the high cost of living on day one, but costs having gone down during Donald Trump's presidency, costs have gone up. Donald Trump promised that ICE enforcement in this country would target the worst of the worst, but instead, billions of taxpayer dollars are being used by ICE to brutalize and kill American citizens and violently target law-abiding immigrant families and communities, including in Maine earlier today. Donald Trump promised that he was elected not to start wars in the Middle East, but to stop them. He then turned around along with compliant Republicans and launched a reckless and costly war of choice in Iran that's ongoing and now has been taking place for more than 100 days with over $100 billion in taxpayer money being wasted, while leaving Iran in a stronger position than they were in before the war, and the American people economically in a weaker position, particularly as it relates to high gas prices. Donald Trump and the Republican majority in the House and the Senate has been a complete and total failure. Life hasn't gotten better under Republicans in Washington, D.C. It's gotten much worse. And as House Democrats, we continue to be committed to doing the things that are necessary to drive down the high cost of living, fix our broken healthcare system, get ICE under control, end the reckless and costly war of choice in the Middle East, and clean up corruption in this town. Questions?
President Trump notified Congress that a new war with Iran over the weekend. Will House Democrats pursue another war powers resolution?
We have advanced multiple war powers resolutions up until this point, and we will continue to use every legislative tool available to end Donald Trump and the Republican reckless and costly war of choice in Iran.
Is litigation an option for House Democrats in trying to force any kind of action on the war powers resolutions that were previously passed?
What's in front of us right now relates to the legislative process and the appropriations process, and the notion that Republicans are prepared as early as this Wednesday to move another budget to give the so-called Department of War more than $75 billion at least to continue Operation Epic Failure in the Middle East. And I'm pretty confident that every single House Democrat will strongly oppose this effort, and the same will take place in the Senate. And what we need to do is to stop this effort, to use taxpayer dollars to continue this failed war in the Middle East that the American people have rejected from the beginning and have soured on even more over the last several months.
Thanks, Mr. Leader. The Graham Plattner over the recess dropped out of the main Senate race, or said he would drop out of the main Senate race. Your reaction to that, and are there any lessons that can be learned going forward as far as vetting candidates, no matter what seat they're running for?
I issued a statement relative to him dropping out, urging him to end his campaign immediately. That's been done, and now it's in the hands of the people of Maine to decide who will be the best Democratic nominee to flip that seat and defeat Susan Collins. At the same period of time, when it comes to our efforts in the House to flip the handful of seats that will be needed in order for us to start to end this national nightmare in the United States of America and take back control of the House, we've had incredible candidates step forward and emerge all across the country, including combat veterans, doctors, farmers, educators, smoke jumpers, firefighters, law enforcement officers, and even a Tejano music star in South Texas. We have incredible candidates all across the country, and it's one of the many reasons why I'm confident that on that first Tuesday in November, we're going to take back control of the House of Representatives.
One of those flip opportunities is Michigan's 7th District. The Congressional Black Caucus over the weekend put out a statement saying anyone supporting Will Lawrence, one of the left-wing candidates running, should denounce their support. He had hateful comments, they said. Do you agree with what the Congressional Black Caucus PAC said, and what are your thoughts on that Democratic primary?
I haven't had a conversation with the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus or the chair of the PAC, but those comments were brought to my attention, and they are deeply disturbing.
Thank you. Have you had the chance to meet with Brad Linder or any other New York progressive winners since their primaries?
Yes, I've talked to several of them, and we'll have more to say about it in the future.
Thank you. Late Senator Lindsey Graham was known for his ability to work across the aisle. But then we have Schumer, we have Pelosi, Joe Biden, Senator John McCain. And this is like all-guard politicians who were able to work within the culture where bipartisan relationships were possible and often necessary. So what are your views on the state of bipartisanship today in America, and how do you intend as a leader to guard those values going forward?
Well, let me again offer thoughts and prayers and condolences to the family of Lindsey Graham, to his friends, to his loved ones, to his Senate colleagues, and of course to his constituents. We disagreed on a whole host of issues, but he was someone who was committed to a lifetime of service. And on occasion, I think, particularly when he was closely aligned with John McCain, leaned into the importance of trying to actually get things done in a bipartisan way for the American people. In my view, House Democrats have made clear from the very beginning of this Congress that we will work with anyone, anytime, in any place in order to solve problems on behalf of the American people. The big problem that we've confronted is that Donald Trump hasn't been interested in making life better for everyday Americans. Right now, he's just focused on trying to rig the midterm elections. This is the reason why he did not sign a bipartisan housing bill on affordability into law. That bill was bipartisan and was worked on in the House, led by Maxine Waters. She did a tremendous job, in partnership with Senator Elizabeth Warren, who also did a tremendous job. And every single Democrat in the House of Representatives, from the most progressive to the most centrist and all points in between, supported that housing affordability bill, which was then sent to Donald Trump's desk, and he ignored it threw a temper tantrum and was uninterested in actually signing it because Donald Trump has made clear he doesn't give a damn about making life more affordable for the American people. As House Democrats, we do. And Exhibit A is the housing affordability bill led by House and Senate Democrats in partnership with French Hill to get something important done for the American people.
Thank you, Leader. FISA has been dark for a month now. Has there been any discussions regarding that? Anything happening, behind the scenes for getting that, getting lights back on there?
There have been no direct conversations between the Trump administration and members of House Democratic leadership over the last several weeks in connection with surveillance authority. Our position has remained clear. It is irresponsible to expect the American people to trust Donald Trump, Kash Patel, and Bill Pulte with the privacy of the American people. And under no circumstances is that in any way a logical thing to expect House or Senate Democrats to sign off on, given the repeated abuses by the Trump administration in terms of weaponizing the authority that they have within the Department of Justice, but not limited to the Department of Justice. The Trump administration at this point is just not serious about solving problems for the American people. They continue to want to jam extreme individuals and their extreme ideology down the throats of the American people. And from the perspective of House Democrats, we're just not going to go along with it. And that has been the case. We've battled them as it relates to their efforts to destroy health care in America. We've battled them as it relates to ICE brutality, and we'll continue to do so. We're battling them as it relates to their reckless and costly war of choice, which has been a disaster for the American people. And we're going to continue to battle them with respect to their efforts to overreach when it comes to surveillance authority and a FISA extension.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I wanted to get your reaction to the Supreme Court's term now that it's completely wrapped up. After the Calais decision, you called it illegitimate, you called it the Trump court. But in this term, the court has ruled against Trump on issues like birthright citizenship, like tariffs. Given those rulings, is it fair to call the Supreme Court, the Trump court, illegitimate?
I said that the majority, as constructed, had severe credibility problems. Let me put it politely in that fashion. And anyone paying attention to the court, the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, and unleashing Jim Crow-like tactics on Black Americans, particularly in the Deep South, would understand the illegitimacy of that decision. It didn't lack any credible basis in law or in fact. And the Supreme Court then doubled down on the fact that they're completely and totally out of control in this area when a 3-judge panel, all appointed by Republican presidents in Alabama, 2 of whom appointed by Donald Trump and 1 of whom was appointed by Ronald Reagan, decided in a unanimous decision after Calais that the map that Alabama Republicans wanted to use was racially discriminatory against Black folks in the state of Alabama. 3-judge panel, 2 Trump-appointed judges made that declaration, and the Supreme Court overturned it. So they have no credibility, zip zero, in this area. They also lack credibility as it relates to the fact that this unbridled corruption that's being unleashed on the American people, and the reason why House Democrats are committed to cleaning up corruption in the United States of America is because if you've got people in power like Donald Trump and his Republican sycophants who do nothing but bend the knee to him within the administration and here in Congress, if you got people in power who are so focused on enriching themselves, their family members, their friends, and their donors, then they're not focused on solving problems for the American people. So we have a big problem with that on behalf of everyday Americans, which is why, as part of our affordability agenda and solving problems for the American people, we're committed to cleaning up corruption in this town. If one were to say, why are we facing such unbridled corruption by Donald Trump? In fact, the $1.8 billion slush fund for violent January 6th insurrectionists earlier today declared illegitimate by a federal judge. The whole lawsuit brought by Donald Trump was a complete and total sham and was designed to bring about a situation where they could fake a settlement, enrich people who brutally beat police officers on January 6th, and then give blanket immunity to tax investigations from the IRS for Donald Trump and his family. The whole thing is a Ponzi scheme that has now been unraveled by a federal court. But what unleashed all of this corruption, too numerous for me to mention? I would be here all day and all night and throughout the rest of the week detailing the corruption that has been unleashed on the American people. It was the Supreme Court in 2024 in the Trump v. United States decision, where 6 right-wing conservative justices on this court gave Donald Trump, as president, blanket immunity to unleash a crime wave on the American people and enrich himself. That all traces back to that Supreme Court decision in Trump v. United States. So yes, in my view, there is zero credibility in that decision as well. And look at what it has unleashed on the American people.
As we're getting closer to August recess and prime campaign season, are you going to roll out, as House Democrats, like an H.R. 1 for the new Congress, not necessarily a contract with America, but something like that? I mean, I know obviously substantively you're talking about anti-corruption, affordability, et cetera, but is there going to be like a bill that you all are going to say this is going to be ambition 1?
Well, the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee, under the leadership of Debbie Dingell, has done a great job of engaging with people all across the ideological spectrum within the House Democratic Caucus family. And it's my expectation that they will present to the caucus at some point in the next few weeks, in advance of the August district work period, about continuing to articulate an affirmative vision related to our plans as House Democrats to make life better for the American people. Thank you, everyone.
All right, folks, that was, of course, today's news conference. On the housing bill, Zachary, he's right. Trump did throw a little fit, mad and upset. And it's a no-brainer, but it also goes to show you he doesn't give a damn about the American people and what's happening. It's all about how can he rape and pillage this country and how can he make his millionaire, billionaire friends happy.
Almost $5 billion increase in this man's net worth, and he does not give a damn that millions of Americans cannot afford to purchase a home, cannot afford to begin the process of building generational wealth. Gen Z some millennials are shut out permanently from home ownership in this country. And one of the very few things that our leaders in Congress could do is come together in this bipartisan bill and pass it, trying to rectify and provide lower cost, not low cost, but lower cost housing to the American people. And this man refused to even sign it. So yeah, he threw a little hissy fit. He threw a tantrum. It was typical of what he does. And I'm afraid that we're going to see even more of that bullshit as we approach the end of the week. I do want to say I appreciate you showing Leader Jeffries' remarks and really highlighting the work that he is doing and how he's presenting himself and the legal efforts that Democrats have to fight back and to dissent while they are not within any seats of congressional power at the moment. I'm someone who's I'm a big fan of Leader Jeffries and the fact that this is the highest ranking Democrat in this country and he is a black man. So I'm just so thankful that we're able to get him in front of the American people more.
Ome Congo?
You know, listening to his press conference, it was a reminder that people who are Democrats, liberal, so-called progressives and the like, they need to really focus on what's important. Because I've heard so much talk in the last few days, last few weeks about people are going to stay home if this particular campaign issue isn't addressed, if this particular other campaign issue isn't addressed. And in the very beginning of this press conference, Representative Jeffries laid out the whole gauntlet of things that Democrats are fighting for. And whether you're somebody who's considered a liberal or a DSA or whatever, most of those things that he talked about, if not all of them, all of us want. And so it's extremely important that people really focus on what's important, which is getting control of the House, possibly the Senate, and putting pressure on this administration and fighting them back. And I believe that people have this fake nonsense of, oh, y'all just want to vote blue no matter who. It's not about any of that. It's about making sure that we have a fighting chance to get the services that are to us as American citizens or people who just reside in this country, period, bottom line. Look at what he talked about as it relates to ICE, the shooting in Maine, shooting in Houston. The list goes on and on and on. So I feel like his press conference should really be a reality check for all of us to see what's really at stake here as we go into the midterms, because this is not one that people can afford to sit out. But Roland, I feel like there's an emerging podcast class of so-called liberals and progressives who are thwarting some of these really important efforts, and it's really problematic and dangerous.
I think what Jeffries laid out is something that every ranking Democrat needs to be doing on a larger scale. We don't just need to hear from one of you. We need to hear from all of you. And we need all of you that are laying out the plan. And it's being lost because they're not doing that. So when Jeffries come and have to lay out the whole table, somebody is going to miss the message. And it's because it's not consistent. We need consistent messages from our leaders so that everyone can be on board. And if we're not going to continue to do that, we're going to continue to be behind the ball. And I also want our leaders to stop making these compromises to the Republicans. You don't gotta sweet nothings them. You don't have to say these nice things all the doggone time, especially when they're out here doing the unthinkable. We have people dying at the hands of the Republican Party. Why are you up here doing sweet nothings and sending condolences to a man that is a pig and was evil? So I want them to get away from that, because the Republicans don't do that, and focus on what we need to be focusing on and continue to be consistent in pushing the message that we need to be hearing and paying attention to so that we can go out and execute.
Folks, before we go to a break, let me tell you about Kickoff. It's the halfway point of the year, and if your credit is still where it was in January, Kickoff can help you fix what is broken and help you build what's next. Kickoff knows how hard it is to navigate a financial system filled with barriers for people without wealth or credit history. Users with a credit score under 600 can grow an average of 86 points just by paying on time. With transparent, affordable plans starting at just $5 a month, no hidden fees and zero interest, Kickoff helps you score big when it comes to credit. It's simple. You make on-time payments. Credit bureaus see good behavior. Your credit can grow fast. Plus, their rent reporting feature helps you build credit with the rent you already pay. Every positive on-time rent payment gets reported to help boost your credit report. Start building credit immediately for only $1 your first month. You can set up auto pay so you never worry about missing a payment. Sign up in minutes from your phone. No credit check, no hidden fees, no interest. With over 1 million users and hundreds of thousands of positive reviews, there's a reason why Kickoff is the #1 credit builder on the App Store. Start building credit with Kickoff today and get your first month for as little as $1. That's 80% off the normal price when you go to GetKickoff, GetKickoff.com/unfiltered today. That's Kickoff without the C. GetKickoff.com/unfiltered. Sign up via Kickoff again. To activate the offer, again, GetKickoff, GetKickoff.com/unfiltered to activate the offer. It only applies to new Kickoff customers, first month only, subject to approval. The offer also subject to change. Average first-year credit score is impacted plus 86 points between August 2024 and August 2025 for Kickoff credit account users who started with a score below 600, who paid on time, and who had no delinquencies or collections added to their credit profile during the period. Late payments may negatively impact your credit scores. Individual results may vary. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
Hello, I'm Bishop T.D. Jakes, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
An LAPD officer could face criminal charges for secretly recording his colleagues' racist comments. Last year, LAPD officer Daniel Flores recorded almost 90 discriminatory conversations with his colleagues to support an internal affairs complaint. The internal affairs case has now been transferred to state prosecutors because California law prohibits secretly recording conversations. Okay. Flores' attorney argues that he had the authority to record the conversations because he is a police officer. Wow. So the guy records racist conversations, Thelma, and he's the one who's going to be in trouble.
And that's the tricky part about California. And one thing that I've paid attention to this particular law, when individuals have come out recording individuals, the one catch-all that affords them the ability to do so, if there is a crime being committed or you anticipate something to be criminal in nature. This could fall into that middle ground, because when you have law enforcement officers who are out here and who have taken an oath to serve and protect their community, and they're out here intentionally making racial statements towards individuals they come into contact with on a daily basis, that is an inherent bias. It also puts the individuals that they are come in encounter with in danger, and they don't know that they're in danger because these individuals are being equipped to put them in danger because of their racial backgrounds that we don't know about. And that's one of the failures in the public service industry, They don't ask the required question, are you a damn racist? It's very easy to ask these questions, because if they say that they are not, now you have recorded conversations that can come back and hold them accountable. But because they are afraid to ask the ultimate question that needs to be asked to every law enforcement officer, every lawyer, every judge, anyone that is in these positions that where the law requires them to either be present to present legal arguments or take someone in custody. It's insane. I don't know why they are playing with their own statute that gives leeway as to what is the recipe to get around that particular law when it's necessary, and this is necessary.
Zachary.
This is going to be an opportunity for the Democratic leaders of California, if this man is facing any kind of penalty for what he's done, to step up and do the right thing. There have been record number of times when Governor Gavin Newsom didn't do the right thing, but this is a time that he can correct that, especially if he hopes to have any kind of opportunities beyond where he currently sits as governor of California. This is also a prime example of why we need the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, because this is exactly what that act aims to help end the police who are not doing and operating in good faith and doing what's right by the people.
Congo.
Well, I have bigger concern for the officer now, because it's a bigger target on his back. I mean, whatever he was suing for, whatever discrimination he was talking about, now he has all of this, and people know that they're recorded. So I'm even more concerned for what's going to happen to him. And quite honestly, look, if you can have these laws about not recording this or that, but if people are saying things that you know are jeopardizing, maybe they're saying racist things about how they view the communities that they serve, and you actually do nothing about it, that's a problem. That's a real problem. And quite honestly, this can come up later on in another court case, I'm assuming, where people can say, well, this officer was racist, it was put out there, and nothing was done about it. And so this officer is at a greater risk, and there needs to be something done more to support him, because he clearly has evidence that he's surrounded by people who don't have the best interests of either him or his community at heart, and that nothing can be done about it simply because of this law. It's only going to end up bad for him. I don't know what's going to happen to these officers, but something needs to be on their files as well, based on what they were recorded saying. I get it, but I don't get it at the same time.
Understand. Folks, Morehouse College is getting a major investment in campus safety. The school will receive more than $500,000 in federal funding through a bipartisan effort led by Georgia Senators John Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock. The funding is part of the fiscal year 2026 Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Agencies Appropriations Act, which is part of the Senators' broader push to strengthen and invest in HBCUs systematically. The money will pay for new motorized gates at campus entrances, security cameras at dorm entrances, and proximity lock systems for classrooms and offices across the campus. Folks, so let me thank our panel. We appreciate all of you, Thelma, Zachary, and Omekongo. So really appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Y'all have a good one. Folks, we're going to close the show out with an interview that I did with the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Ghazala Hashmi. She is the first Muslim Lieutenant Governor. We sat down to talk about her historic win and also her focus since taking office. This conversation took place June 27th at the Virginia Democrats Commonwealth Gala.
With us right now, the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Ghazala Hashmi, just correcting?
That's correct.
Did I get it right?
That's right.
All right then. So how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
So obviously historic win for you. How has it been thus far? What kind of learning curve has it been?
Well, it's been a very wonderful transition. You know, I served 6 years in the Virginia Senate, and now I preside over the Senate. What's been really important and helpful is that I have those key relationships already in place, not just with members of the General Assembly, but across state agencies. My team got to work right away, continuing the effort to help all Virginians.
But you also have a very narrow margin in the Senate, correct?
We do. 1 seat margin. You know, when I got elected in 2019, I was that 1 seat margin. We brought in a trifecta at that point. We were able to secure so many critical pieces of legislation. And then when we lost the governorship to Governor Youngkin, when we lost the majority in the House of Delegates, it's that one seat that continued to protect Virginia over these years so that we could be a firewall against the disastrous policies that we're seeing from the Republicans.
Now, the next round of state Senate election is what, next year?
For the state government, yes, we will have all 140 seats in 2027, 40 seats in the Senate, 100 seats again in the House of Delegates. We're going to fight hard to expand our Senate majority.
You know, one of the things that I was just talking about is that what people really have to understand what is going on here. When I look at this extreme court, I don't call them a Supreme Court, this extreme court. What we are seeing is this effort to solidify their control, not just for the next election cycle, but literally for the next generation. And so what do you say to that person who's watching, who's listening, who says, you know what, I'm not feeling this, my vote doesn't matter, it doesn't count, I don't think I can actually create change?
Every person's vote absolutely matters. You know, what we've seen in Virginia when we won that one seat in the Senate, that ensured that we were able to have effective control over all of the legislation that was going to be introduced, that was going to be passed. We've been able to pass significant historic legislation that kept Virginia protected no matter what Donald Trump was doing. Every vote matters, and that's why it's so critical, especially now. I think we all agree we're facing perilous times in this country. Democracy truly is at stake. It's for everybody to act at this moment so that we can keep this nation moving forward and not relinquish the kind of prominence and effort that so many generations have made to get us to where we are.
What do you make of the constant attacks in this country on immigrants?
As an immigrant myself, I understand what pain and vulnerability so many families are feeling. And, you know, this is, again, a moment where we have to stand up for immigrant communities. And Virginia continues to show that we are not going backward. And, in fact, we are a very inclusive Commonwealth. We know that our wealth stands on the basis of the richness and the diversity that we have, not just in Virginia, but across the country. And Virginians elected, not just me, but other immigrants, we know that we're fighting for the same reason. We're here as Americans, and we're going to fight to continue to uphold those democratic values.
Well, one of the things that I am consistently trying to convey to people, and it's amazing how many people that really don't think about this here, who really don't understand the number of immigrants in this country and the number of people who are in jobs, in corporate America, in politics, who may be one generation removed. Yeah. And when you hear the phrase, obviously, black folks were enslaved, brought here in chains, but it's without a doubt, this is an immigrant-driven country. So this notion that you're not going to have immigration and we're just going to shut the borders off is nonsensical, because you cannot grow as a nation if you are decreasing your population. Your gross domestic product will actually decrease.
I agree fully. You know, America has always built its communities and resources through the efforts of so many different immigrant communities. We get the research talent, we get the scholarship, we get the entrepreneurial efforts, all from so many people around the world. People around the world hold fast to the idea of America. It is an idea that has stood the test of time. It's an idea that appeals to so many individuals because they know all the opportunity that this nation has to offer, but also the fact that it's based on a democratic principle that every single person has a right to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Those words mean something very powerful for people all across the world. We need to restore America's position on a global scale.
Well, that's why I always appreciate when I read or listen to Dr. King's speech on April 3rd, 1968, when he said, America, be true to what you put on paper.
Exactly.
Because there are a lot of people who claim to be patriotic. There are a lot of people who claim to be great Americans, who claim they love the Declaration of Independence, who claim they believe in the Constitution, but their actions speak something totally different.
You're absolutely right. You know, I spent 30 years teaching American literature before I decided to run for office. And so for me, those foundational texts that actually define our American idea mean so much more than just words on a paper. And I taught students from around the world who sat in my classroom. They were here pursuing an American dream, knowing that there is power in this country, and that power rests on its recognition of the individual and of the critical role that democracy plays in upholding every single voice.
So you say you taught for 30 years. Why did you want to run? Why?
So I decided to run in 2019 because of Donald Trump's first administration. You know, Trump came into office wanting to ban Muslims, wanting to attack immigrants on bigoted ways. And as a Muslim American who had grown up in this country, I knew that that was not the vision of America that I was teaching my students. And I had a special urgency to stand up and represent the people in the communities that I work so closely with.
Last question for you, and that is, as we look at the next 5 months, what do you say to Democratic strategists, and I say it, largely white male strategists, who believe in putting all the money on television, not putting the money on the ground, who believe that the path to victory are white suburban voters, and who are not truly understanding Muslim voters, black voters, Hispanic voters, Asian American voters? What do you say to folks to change their idea of how to win elections based upon how y'all have been effective here in Virginia?
I think if we still play out the same tired game, we're going to continue to lose the critical constituencies that are looking to Democrats to stand up and truly represent the full spectrum of this nation. You know, I campaigned for 2 years as I ran for lieutenant governor. I crisscrossed the state, put on over 80,000 miles in my little Prius. I talked to people in every part of this Commonwealth. People want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to know that the people who are in elected office are fighting for them, regardless of political party, and that authenticity really registers. Unless voters see you, they're not going to be able to trust you, they're not going to be able to vote for you. I urge all candidates to go everywhere, to talk to every community, to build those solid coalitions. That's the path to victory, because once voters understand what we're fighting for, they know that they can trust you as a candidate.
All right, Lieutenant Governor Osby, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Folks, that is it for us. We certainly appreciate y'all joining us on today's show. Don't forget to support the work that we do by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to contribute, goals to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. You support this show and the other shows right here on the Black Star Network. To contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. That's for credit cards as well. If you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com. Checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Come on, y'all. All y'all folks who are watching, we should have 1,000 likes. We're not there yet. Come on, all you people on YouTube. Hit the button. Get our Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Star Network swag by going to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Hats, T-shirts, mugs, you name it, we got it. Plus our America 250 shirts, which features some fantastic quotes from Paul Robeson, Harry Belafonte, James Baldwin. Why am I not seeing the shirts? I said 3 days ago that I wanted to have that. Too late, y'all. Come on now. We got to get this right, okay? All right. So if you want to support our black-owned products, do me a favor. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Every product you see here in the studio, you name it, we got it. Backpacks, crossword puzzles, golf balls, candles, car wax, paint. We got baking mix. I mean, you name it, we got it, folks. Support the more than 50 companies that are on shopblackstardnetwork.com by going to our marketplace segment. Don't forget, download the app Fan Base. Be sure to, of course, follow me at Roland S. Martin. Folks, that's it. And shout out to FAMU. I'm rocking their shirt today. Representing the Rattlers today right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Holla! Yeah, the same one we do for the show. What the hell is this? Three, two, one. For the past decade, I've had the privilege to witness the incredible work of Tanisha Taylor Tidwell and the Ezekiel Taylor Scholarship Foundation. This organization isn't just helping young African-American men get to college, but it is committed to getting them through college. Year after year, they invest not only in tuition, but in mentorship, leadership, and accountability. We often talk about changing the future of our communities. The truth is, it begins by investing in our young men, believing in them, walking alongside them, and reminding them that they are capable of greatness. That's exactly what this foundation has done. It's creating the next generation of leaders. Congratulations on 10 years of transforming lives and strengthening our community. To the class of 2026 scholarship recipients and graduates, you stand on the shoulders of those who believed in you. Now go forward, make your mark, and make us proud.